The Silent Vanguard. The Galactic Coalition's command center on Proxima Station hung in the void like a dying star. Once a beacon of hope for the 17 united species, now it served as a grim reminder of imminent defeat. Holographic displays flickered across the circular war room, each one showing another coalition outpost falling to the relentless void dominion. Admiral Vexala, her translucent Arcadian skin pulsing with stress patterns, addressed the gathered representatives. The Dominion has taken the Rigel system. Our defensive line is collapsing. Her six-fingered hand swept through the holographic display, revealing a sea of red indicators steadily consuming the blue territories. At current pace, we have 3 standard months before they reach the core worlds. From the back of the room, a voice spoke, human, calm amid the panic. Then we have 3 months to stop them. All eyes turned to Captain Ilara Reyes. At 38, she stood tall among the varied physiology of the coalition representatives, her dark hair pulled back in a tight military bun, a single streak of white marking her left temple. Unlike the other representatives in their ceremonial armor or diplomatic attire, she wore a simple black uniform with minimal insignia. "With all due respect, Captain," hissed Ambassador Trill of the Saurian Collective, "humanity joined our coalition barely 20 years ago. Your species hasn't even explored beyond your local cluster without our technology. What could you possibly offer now?" Reyes stepped forward, her boots making a distinct sound on the polished floor. The ESS Phantom. Admiral Vexala's skin shifted to a curious blue. "The stealth vessel. I thought it was still theoretical." "It was," Reyes replied, "until yesterday." She pressed a small device on her wrist, and the central hologram shifted to show a vessel unlike any in the Coalition fleet. Where Coalition ships favored elegant curved designs optimized for subspace efficiency, the Phantom was angular, almost primitive-looking, with strange material covering its hull. It doesn't use standard cloaking technology. Instead, it absorbs and redirects scanning waves, making it virtually undetectable. "How does that help us against a fleet of thousands?" demanded General Kraz of the militant Ursine Empire, his massive furred form towering over Reyes. "Because it can get me behind enemy lines," Reyes answered. "The Dominion has been winning through superior intelligence and strategy. We need to understand their plans if we're going to counter them." Admiral Vexala's skin swirled with contemplative patterns. "You're proposing an infiltration mission. The most dangerous one ever attempted," Reyes confirmed. "The Phantom can penetrate their territory undetected. My team and I can gather the intelligence we need to turn this war around. And you expect us to risk our last hope on a human mission?" Trill scoffed. "No," Reyes said, her gaze unwavering. "I expect you to risk it on the only mission with any chance of success." 3 days later, the ESS Phantom slipped silently from Proxima Station's auxiliary dock. With a crew of just 6, all human volunteers, the vessel disappeared into the black, leaving not even a subspace ripple to mark its passage. Lieutenant Commander Jack Santos, Phantom's tactical officer, monitored the sensor array with unwavering attention. At 43, he was the oldest crew member after Reyes herself, with deep laugh lines that belied his serious demeanor. "Approaching the Dominion's outer sensor net, Captain," he reported. "If our stealth systems fail, we'll have about 6 seconds before we're detected." Reyes nodded, her focus absolute. "Maintain course, 1/4 power." "Dr. Chen, status on the absorption field." Dr. Mei Chen, the brilliant physicist responsible for the Phantom's unique stealth technology, didn't look up from her station. "Field operating at 97% efficiency. They won't see us unless they physically bump into us." The Phantom glided through the Dominion's sensor net like a ghost, passing mere kilometers from automated defense platforms that remained oblivious to its presence. For 3 days, they pushed deeper into enemy territory, carefully documenting fleet movements, supply lines, and communication patterns. "I don't understand," Santos said on the 4th day, frowning at his readings. "The Dominion fleet is congregating around Epsilon Eridani. There's nothing strategically valuable there. Pull up the long-range visuals, Rise ordered. The main screen filled with an image of a massive construction project. A spherical structure the size of a small moon hung in orbit around Epsilon Eridani's third planet, surrounded by Dominion construction vessels. Dr. Chen's face paled. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would. What are we looking at, Doctor? Rise asked quietly. If my calculations are correct, Chen replied, her voice barely above a whisper. A gravitic compressor. A planet killer. The crew fell silent as the implications sank in. Such a weapon could collapse a planet's core from orbit, destroying not just the planet, but creating a gravitational shockwave that would devastate an entire system. How long until it's operational? Rise asked. Chen studied the readings. Based on current construction, 2 weeks, maybe less. Reyes's jaw tightened. That's their plan. They're not pushing for the core worlds yet because they're waiting for this weapon. Once it's operational, they'll use it on one of our populated systems as a demonstration, forcing an unconditional surrender. We need to get this intelligence back to the Coalition. Santos urged. Agreed, Reyes said, but first we need more data. I want detailed scans of that weapon. If we're going to have any chance of countering it, our engineers need to understand exactly how it works. The Phantom edged closer to the construction site, its stealth systems working at maximum capacity. For 12 hours, they gathered every piece of data they could, hacking into unsecured Dominion transmissions and conducting detailed scans. They were preparing to withdraw when disaster struck. Captain, Santos called out, his voice tight with alarm. Multiple Dominion cruisers changing course. They're heading directly for us. Have we been detected? Rise demanded. I don't think so, Chen replied, frantically checking her systems. The absorption field is still functioning properly. It looks like a standard patrol pattern, but they're on a direct intercept course. Rise weighed her options quickly. If we power up engines to full, we risk detection. If we maintain current speed, they'll intersect with our position. Recommendation, Captain. Santos asked. Maintain current course and speed, Rise decided. Power down all non-essential systems to minimize our signature. With luck, they'll pass right by us. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the Dominion cruisers grew larger on their view screen. Massive black vessels with organic-looking protrusions, they represented the pinnacle of Dominion military power. Each one carried enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. The lead cruiser passed within 500 meters of the Phantom, close enough to see the individual weapon ports on its hull. No one on the bridge dared to breathe. Then, without warning, alarm klaxons blared. They've detected us, Santos shouted. They're powering weapons. Full power to engines. Rise ordered. Evasive pattern Delta. Get us out of here. The Phantom leaped forward, its stealth compromised, but its advanced propulsion system giving it a slim advantage in speed. Behind them, the Dominion cruisers opened fire, energy beams lancing through space where the Phantom had been seconds before. Can we outrun them? Rise asked. Not with the data we're carrying, Chen replied grimly. The stealth system is offline, and we're at 120% engine capacity already. Even if we make it to the jump point, we'll burn out our engines before we reach Coalition space. Rise made her decision in an instant. Prepare to transmit all our data to the Coalition. She turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Park, set up a tight beam transmission directly to Proxima Station. Encrypt it with my personal codes. Captain, Santos questioned, understanding dawning in his eyes. We can't outrun them with all this data, Rise explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of her decision. But we can ensure it reaches the Coalition while we lead the Dominion away. That's suicide, Captain, Chen protested. Maybe not, Rise countered. Once the data is transmitted, we'll dump our non-essential mass and go to maximum burn. We might just make it. The look in her eyes made it clear she didn't believe her own words, but her crew needed hope. "Transmission ready, Captain," Park reported. "Send it," Reyes ordered. As the tight beam transmission shot toward Coalition space, carrying the vital intelligence that might save billions of lives, Reyes turned to her helm officer. "Lieutenant Alvarez, set course for the Bellatrix Nebula. Maximum speed." "The nebula, Captain?" Alvarez questioned. "The radiation will confuse their sensors," Reyes explained. "And if we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as possible." The Phantom raced toward the nebula, pursued by a growing fleet of Dominion vessels. Behind them, at Epsilon Eridani, work continued on the weapon that could end the war, unless the information Reyes had sent could help the Coalition find a way to stop it. As they approached the nebula's edge, Reyes stood from her command chair and looked at each member of her crew. The best humanity had to offer, volunteering for what had become a one-way mission. "It has been my honor to serve with each of you," she said quietly. "Today, we may save not just humanity, but all the species of the Coalition. Whatever happens next, remember, this is what humans do. We sacrifice so others may live." The Phantom plunged into the nebula, its smaller size allowing it to navigate the turbulent gases and radiation fields with greater agility than its pursuers. Dominion vessels followed, determined to destroy the intruder that had stolen their secrets. Deep in the nebula, Captain Ilara Reyes prepared for her final stand. Humanity strikes back. Admiral Marcus Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the EFS's Invictus, Earth's first true battleship. At 52, his weathered face bore the marks of a career spent in humanity's rapid ascension to the stars. The last 20 years had been a blur. First contact, joining the Coalition, adapting alien technologies, and now fighting for survival against an enemy that had been waging interstellar war since before humans had invented the wheel. "Status of the fleet?" he asked, his voice carrying across the bridge without raising it. Commander Sofia Torres, his executive officer, stepped forward. "All 27 vessels accounted for and in formation, Admiral. The Coalition forces have taken position in Sector 7, as requested." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display floating above the central command table. The hologram showed their meager fleet, the last defense of humanity and their Coalition allies. Positioned near the jump point of the Sol system. Behind them lay Earth, Mars, and the rest of humanity's cradle. And approaching was the Void Dominion's armada. Over 300 warships, led by 5 dreadnoughts, each capable of reducing a continent to ash. "The Coalition representatives are requesting to speak with you again," Torres informed him, her tone suggesting what she thought of that request. Chen almost smiled. "Tell them I'm busy planning our victory." "They still think your strategy is insane," Torres remarked. "It is insane," Chen agreed. "That's why it might work." 3 days earlier, a Coalition long-range relay had picked up a faint transmission, a burst of encrypted data accompanied by Captain Ilara Reyes's identification codes. The data had contained detailed intelligence on the Dominion's new weapon and, more importantly, their battle plans for the final assault on Coalition space. The Phantom and its crew had not been heard from since. Chen had known Ilara Reyes since the Academy. If she had sacrificed herself to get this intelligence to them, he would make damn sure it wasn't in vain. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Coalition flagship." "On screen," Chen ordered. The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Vexala, her Arcadian skin pulsing with anxiety patterns. "Admiral Chen, our sensors confirm the Dominion fleet will arrive within the hour. I must again urge you to reconsider your strategy. Your vessels would be better utilized as part of our main defensive line." Chen straightened, clasping his hands behind his back. "With respect, Admiral, humanity has contributed to this Coalition in good faith. We've adapted your technologies, fought alongside your ships, and lost good people. Now I'm asking you to trust us, to fight this battle our way." "Your way." Vexala's skin flushed with frustration patterns. Your ships are using retrofitted ballistic weapons and primitive nuclear devices. You've disabled the advanced shield systems we provided you. It's technological regression. Sometimes, Chen replied calmly, the old ways are the best ways. The Dominion has adapted to your energy weapons and quantum shields. They haven't faced ballistic and nuclear arsenals in millennia. They don't even detect them on their standard scans. It's suicide, Vexilla insisted. Maybe, Chen acknowledged. But I'd rather die on my feet making them bleed than kneeling with perfect technology that can't save us. He paused, his expression softening slightly. Trust us, Admiral. Humanity didn't survive its own violent history without learning a few things about warfare. Before Vexilla could respond, the tactical officer called out, Dominion fleet dropping out of FTL. Sir. Multiple signatures. Count is 365 vessels. Positions. Chen barked, turning from the communication. They're forming up exactly as Captain Rice's intelligence suggested. Torres confirmed. Dreadnoughts in a pentagonal formation, cruisers creating a screening perimeter. Chen's eyes narrowed. And the weapon? Detecting an anomalous mass behind their main fleet. Energy readings are consistent with Dr. Chen's analysis of the gravitic compressor. Chen took a deep breath. This is it, then. All ships, initiate Operation Hephaestus. Launch missiles at designated coordinates, full spread. Across the human fleet, missile tubes that had been retrofitted onto ships designed for energy weapons opened, launching thousands of small, seemingly primitive projectiles. The coalition representatives watched in horror as humanity appeared to waste its opening salvo on empty space, the missiles detonating thousands of kilometers from any Dominion vessel. But Chen wasn't aiming at the ships. Detonation successful, Torres reported. Electromagnetic pulse expanding at projected rate. Dominion forward sensors going dark. The Dominion fleet, momentarily confused by the unconventional attack, continued its advance. Their powerful shields easily absorbed energy weapons, but they weren't designed to block the electromagnetic pulse from nuclear detonations in space, a warfare technology considered obsolete for interstellar combat. Phase 2, Chen ordered. Activate magnetic mines. What the Dominion had mistaken for debris from the missile detonations were actually thousands of magnetically charged mines, now drifting toward their fleet. The mines contained no electronics that could be detected by Dominion scans, just simple magnetic mechanisms that would attach to their hulls and detonate on impact. Dominion fleet is altering course, the tactical officer reported. They're detecting the mines. Defensive systems coming online. Perfect. Chen smiled grimly. They're reactive, just as we predicted. All vessels, execute flanking maneuver delta. Engage with railguns and point defense systems. The human fleet split into 3 groups, accelerating on conventional engines rather than the more advanced but easily tracked graviton drives. They swung wide around the Dominion formation, attacking from angles their enemies weren't defended against. The primitive railguns, technology the Dominion considered ancient history, accelerated projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed, punching through shields calibrated to disperse energy weapons, not stop physical objects. On the coalition ships, the alien representatives watched in astonishment as humanity's obsolete weapons tore into the Dominion fleet. They're breaking formation, Torres reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. Dominion vessels are splitting up to engage our flanking groups. They're adapting, Chen noted, implementing countermeasures for ballistic weapons. How long until the gravitic compressor is in firing position? 17 minutes, the tactical officer replied. It's moving into optimum range for Earth. Chen's expression hardened. All ships, initiate Phase 3. Launch thermobaric warheads at designated coordinates. Coalition forces, stand by to engage with conventional weapons on my mark. The human vessels launched their most devastating weapons, warheads designed to create massive pressure waves, even in the vacuum of space, by igniting clouds of aerosolized fuel. Again, they weren't targeting the Dominion ships directly, but the space around them. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. The darkness of space lit up as hundreds of thermobaric weapons detonated in a carefully calculated pattern around the Dominion fleet. The explosions created vast, expanding spheres of superheated gas and particulate matter, effectively transforming empty space into a battlefield environment that severely limited the effectiveness of Dominion targeting systems. They're blind, Torres confirmed. Dominion targeting efficiency down 78%. Coalition forces, attack now. Chen ordered. Target their engines and weapons arrays. The coalition fleet, which had been holding position, surged forward, their energy weapons now far more effective against Dominion ships, struggling to recalibrate their defensive systems amidst the chaos created by humanity's unconventional tactics. "Sir," the tactical officer called, urgency in his voice. The gravitic compressor is powering up, reading massive energy fluctuations. Chen leaned forward, tension visible in his shoulders. "Where's the Invictus relative to the compressor?" "We can intercept in 3 minutes at maximum burn," Torres confirmed. "Do it," Chen ordered. "All other ships continue engaging the Dominion fleet. This is our shot at their super weapon." The Invictus broke away from the battle, engines straining as it accelerated toward the massive spherical structure hanging behind the Dominion fleet. As they approached, the true scale of the weapon became apparent, a construct nearly 100 kilometers in diameter, with a maw-like aperture beginning to glow with ominous energy. "They're targeting Earth," the sensor officer reported, horror evident in his voice. "Prep the package," Chen ordered, his tone deadly calm. "Engineering. Divert all power to forward momentum and shields for impact." Torres looked at him sharply. "Sir, you're not suggesting." "I am," Chen cut her off. "It's what Captain Rice would have done." He opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is Admiral Chen. Brace for collision course with the enemy superweapon. It has been an honor serving with each of you. For Earth and humanity." The Invictus accelerated toward the massive weapon, its reinforced prow aimed directly at the glowing aperture. Dominion defensive vessels scrambled to intercept, but the human battleship's trajectory was too steep, its speed too great. "Impact in 10 seconds. Torres counted down, her voice steady despite knowing what was coming. "Package ready for detonation on your command." The package was humanity's final card, a prototype quantum singularity device, theoretically capable of creating a miniature black hole. Untested, unstable, and likely to destroy the Invictus along with its target. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. "For Ilara," Chen whispered, then louder. "Detonate." The moment before impact, the Invictus released the singularity device directly into the charging aperture of the gravitic compressor. The resulting explosion wasn't visible in the conventional sense. Rather, space itself seemed to twist and distort around the point of impact. Both the human battleship and the Dominion superweapon were caught in the gravitational maelstrom as the fabric of space-time briefly tore and then snapped back. When the distortion cleared, where the weapon had been there was now only debris and a strange, persistent warping of light, a gravitational echo of what had occurred. Across the battlefield, both Coalition and Dominion forces momentarily paused as sensors registered the massive disruption. Then, something unexpected happened. "Sir," the communications officer aboard the Coalition flagship called to Admiral Vexella, "we're receiving a transmission." "From the Invictus." "Impossible," Vexilla breathed, her skin pulsing with shock patterns. But on the view screen appeared Admiral Chen, bloody but alive, amid a bridge filled with emergency lighting and damage control teams. "The singularity collapsed in on itself," Chen explained, his voice strained but triumphant. "Created a momentary wormhole that displaced us rather than destroying us. We're about half a light year off our previous position, but operational." His smile was fierce. "And the Dominion weapon is gone. The Void Dominion, its superweapon destroyed and its fleet in disarray from humanity's unconventional tactics, began a fighting retreat. Without the planet killer to secure their victory, they couldn't afford to continue a battle that had suddenly turned against them. 3 days later, representatives from all coalition species gathered on the damaged but proudly floating Invictus for an unprecedented ceremony. In recognition of humanity's decisive contribution to our survival, Admiral Vexella announced, her skin glowing with formal ceremonial patterns, the Galactic Coalition hereby elevates Earth to full senior member status, with all associated privileges and responsibilities. She turned to Chen, who stood tall despite his injuries. Furthermore, in light of the strategic innovations demonstrated in the recent battle, the Coalition Defense Force will henceforth include a human tactical division, under the command of Admiral Marcus Chen. Chen accepted the ornate ceremonial staff that symbolized his new authority, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Has there been any word of the Phantom? Or Captain Reyes? Vexella's skin dimmed slightly. I regret to inform you that no transmissions have been received. Given the depth of their infiltration into Dominion space, we must assume. She was interrupted by a commotion at the chamber's entrance. All eyes turned to see a disheveled figure in a burned and torn black uniform, supported by an equally battered crew member. Captain Ilara Reyes, her left arm in a makeshift sling, her face marked with fresh scars, but very much alive, met Chen's astonished gaze across the chamber. "Sorry we're late," she said, her voice hoarse but strong. "Had to take the scenic route home." Chen crossed the room in long strides, protocol forgotten as he embraced his old friend. "How did you survive?" Reyes smiled tiredly. "Turns out the Dominion doesn't check escape pods very carefully when their cruisers are exploding. We've been hopping transport vessels all the way from the Bellatrix Nebula." Her expression grew more serious. "I heard what happened here. Seems like humanity made quite an impression." "We learned from the best," Chen replied, looking at her with respect. "Just doing what humans do, finding a way to win against impossible odds." As the coalition representatives gathered around, offering congratulations and asking questions about the battle, Chen and Reyes shared a quiet moment. "You know this is just the beginning," Reyes said softly. "The Dominion will be back, and they'll be ready for our tricks next time." Chen nodded. "Then we'll come up with new ones. After all, that's what makes humans special in this galaxy. We never stop adapting." Reyes smiled, looking out at the stars visible through the observation window, stars that would continue to shine thanks to human ingenuity and sacrifice. "No," she agreed. "We never do." The war wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time since the Void Dominion had appeared on the galactic stage, they had suffered a decisive defeat. And humanity, the newest species in the coalition, had proven they brought something unique to the fight. A perspective shaped by thousands of years of conflict on their home world, an ingenious ability to make weapons from the most primitive technologies, and an indomitable spirit that refused to surrender even in the face of impossible odds. The galaxy would never be the same again.